Oh yeah, we're moving in that direction, but I don't think it's in the direction that some people think, that all of a sudden the federal government is going to own everything and have some type of a system like in communist Russia or other countries where the government owned all the businesses. But it's going to be something probably a little bit worse. And we right now don't have free markets, yet all the problems by the majority of the people in Washington are blaming freedom and free markets and capitalism and deregulation for the crisis we have, and that has to be refuted. But what we've had is an interventionist economic system, and that is a centrally planned economy through regulations and subsidies and spending and manipulation of interest rates. So it isn't for, it has nothing to do with free markets, but it's not socialism. Because prices still fluctuate in the marketplace. But we're on the verge of tipping over into a socialist system where the pricing structure breaks down. In a way, housing pricing structure has broken down. First, the house prices were artificially high through the inflationary policies of the Fed, and now they're kept artificially high by all the policies that we're doing. So we don't have a market. We don't have the market information to tell us what our houses are worth, so that's why there are 19 million empty houses, because people are anticipating maybe they'll go down more, what are we going to do, and that sort of thing. So we're on the verge of it. In 1971, when wage and price controls were put on this country and the market collapsed within a day or two, nothing functioned because of these controls, we actually experienced a bit of overall socialism because there was no pricing structure. What I fear is not where it's open socialism, where government, literally owns all the businesses, but something where the government and the business people have partnerships, and you hear it all the time. We have to be a partner with the government and partnership with government, and that introduces the notion of fascism. And fascism is a form of socialism. Even though there might not be outright ownership, it's outright control. And because it leads to chaos, and we're experiencing this chaos because we've had a lot of that. The Halliburtons of the world and these other companies in the military-industrial complex, the banking industry, it's a buddy system, government and business and governments and bank, and that's collapsing. So the big question is how much authoritarian approach will we accept? How much more government rules and regulations? Right now we're getting a lot more, and that's very scary because this could lead to tremendous political chaos and actually lead to dictatorship. Well, they had their victories when they made their promises, and the Democrats had messed things up so badly that the people in the country wanted to change. So it started with it really started with Goldwater, and then Reagan, and then Gingrich in '94, and then of course George W. Bush in the year 2000, and yet we had all that evidence that that's what the people wanted. So when the conservatives finally get in charge, we have the presidency, the Senate, and the House, and we couldn't wait to act like Democrats. Spend more, run up deficits. I mean, Bush ran in 2000 condemning nation building and policing the world. So what did he do? He doubled and tripled that type of stuff. So Obama now, he runs and says, well, what we need to do is come home, bring some troops home from Iraq and that sort of thing. So immediately he sends more troops into Afghanistan. The people are disgusted because of that, but dealing with specifically the conservatives and Republicans, we did not fulfill our promises. They've lost all credibility. They're regaining it a little bit now because they're acting like conservatives again. Every single House member voted against the Democratic proposal, $800 billion stimulus package. But when Bush had the first one, $100 billion, that was peanuts now. It looks like peanuts. Most of the Republicans voted for it. about a year ago. I think it was January of 08 when the first stimulus package came out, and the large majority of Republicans voted for that. And they've lost credibility, and how they're going to regain it, I do not know. It's going to be slow and incrementally. I imagine the only way the Republicans will regain credibility is the Democrats will be a lot worse, and they're going to be big spenders and get ourselves involved in even a worse war, and people are going to be so upset, and they'll have no place to go since there's so many laws against alternative parties. You can't have a third party and have it competitive. So maybe the American people will be frustrated and say, well, should we give the Republicans one more chance? Maybe they'll be conservatives again. That's really, to me, the only question. When I have a choice to describe myself, I call myself a strict constitutionalist, because it's the oath I take. I don't take an oath to the Republican Party, the Libertarian Party, or anything else. The oath of office is to obey the Constitution. I don't think the Constitution is perfect, and it was certainly imperfect when it began. But the rule of law is very, very important, that you follow the law of the land. And if the Constitution says something and there's a legal way of changing it, you have to change it legally. But today, we've gotten to the point where Congress ignores it, the President defies it, and the courts stomp on it. And that's the problem that we have. So I am first of all a strict constitutionalist. But what does that lead to? Well, that leads to, being very conservative. You want to go back to the values of the Constitution. So I am very conservative in the classical sense. But in a personal way and in a constitutional way, I'm very libertarian, because there's nothing in the Constitution that says the federal government is supposed to run our lives, do all this policing of individual freedoms, and there's no authority, say, to run the drug war. And there's actually no authority in the Constitution for the federal government to be regulating abortion. But I'm strongly right to life. So I would say, Roe versus Wade should have never been heard. Texas had a law against abortion, and under the Constitution they had a right to this. So it was the fact that we ignored the Constitution on issues like abortion. And yet too many conservatives say, there's a problem, let's just have another law and pass it for social or economic reasons. But the founders, I would describe the founders as libertarians, but conservatives like the Constitution. So a good conservative constitutionalist has to have libertarian leanings. They don't want big government. But the biggest flaw in the neoconservatives and modern conservatives is they do not understand that the biggest incentive for the growth of government is war. And they tend too often to support the war, whether the Republicans start the war or the Democrats use it or start it. And they generally, in war conditions, excuses spending, expansion of the size of government, and abuse of civil liberties. And when you think of the challenges that are going on in the courts, the right of habeas corpus and secret prisons and torture and all these things, that should not be part of a conservative's viewpoint of the Constitution. The Constitution there is to protect all suspects. Some people drift in the idea and say, it's okay, you can beat up and kill and do all these things to terrorists. Well, you're not a terrorist until you're convicted of something. So that's where the argument comes. But people who respect the Constitution and want to follow it are good conservatives, and they can't do that without good libertarian leanings.